Buy one, get one free. Buy 3 pairs and get the 4th free. These type of deals can seem great, but if we look closely at where our clothes is produced, some troubling pictures come into view. With the clothing brands outsourcing the manufacturing to majority Asian countries with lower workers' rights standards, we can see the exploitation of the workforce on a massive scale. Here's a quick table of how much apparel workers are making from all our new clothes. These workers are getting paid cents on the dollar, and also work in notoriously horrible working conditions, many times with apparent abuse of the workers, with any lack of real safety standards of any sort. Many of these workers work up to 60 hours a week, with so many living in absolute poverty, while the income of sweatshop using companies like Adidas, Gap, Victoria's Secret still make millions of dollars annually. You can see all these effects coalesce in one of the worst industrial accidents ever. In 2013, a factory collapse in Bangladesh would end up taking the lives of over 1,000 mostly female garment workers. 1,134 to be exact. Just a day before the collapse, the building was evacuated due to having cracks in the wall. The workers were permitted to go back the next day. Well, you bought the shirt, and the color really doesn't fit you that well, and it shrunk in the wash. Well, you may have not known the harmful effects throwing away clothes can have, plus how much environmental damage that single shirt may have caused. The modern textile industry poses a massive and growing assault on the global environment, and several of the most vulnerable areas of climate change and pollution. The fashion industry as we know it uses an enormous amount of water through dyeing and finishing process of clothing production, and a lot of its waste ends up being dumped directly back into freshwater sources. The contamination can be so severe that 20% of the industrial water pollution stems from clothing treatment and dyeing. In fact, 200,000 tons of dyes are lost to effluents, or liquid waste, per year. And as much as 90% of wastewater in developing countries is dumped back into water systems without being treated. In textile-heavy countries such as Bangladesh, cases have been reported of production dyes changing colors to the rivers and streams near the factories. The problem really doesn't end with production. Finished clothing products continue to degrade our water after being sold. As every time a synthetic garment, one made of polyester, nylon, or other plastic-based materials is washed, thousands of microfibers from the garments are released into waterways and eventually end up in the ocean. Organisms can consume these microfibers and spread them up along the food chain, ultimately magnifying the amount of plastic humans consume while eating marine animals. Cotton, a staple of the fashion industry, is not much better in any way. Cotton requires so much water that 85% of the need of water in India, shared by over 100 million people, who also don't have access to clean drinking water, would be met by the amount of water used to grow the plant in the country alone. Even before mentioning its impact on greenhouse gases, chemical pollution, soil degradation, and the rainforest deconstruction that accompanies these problems, the sheer amount of waste that our clothes accounts for is also concerning. Only about 15% of our clothing consumed in the Western world is recycled or donated. The rest goes to landfills. This is saying a lot, as the average family in this part of the world throws away about 30 kilograms of our clothing annually, or 66 pounds. With our clothes' average lifetime now capping around 3 years because of our heavy consumer culture and access to new and more attractive things, we're demanding a lot of our environment, and what we come to see is not that important of real purchases. So let us show a more viable and beneficial solution. Clothes swapping. So what is clothes swapping? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. So when you're done with a shirt or that jacket or another piece of clothing, instead of sending it to the dump, why not just do a clothes swap with one of your friends? This allows each one of you to get a new clothing option, plus also you're helping the planet by not buying new clothes or throwing away old ones. Also, this type of clothes upcycling is on the up and up. A study conducted by the University of Minnesota found that females aged 18 to 25 who shop at vintage retailers do so with the intent of creating a unique look for themselves. In 2017, 44 million American women shopped secondhand, an increase of 9 million from 2016. This rise of frequency of secondhand shopping has also resulted from a change in the branding of a whole new lifestyle. Whereas who shopped secondhand was once considered poor, now they're considered thrifty. As even as the verbiage to describe the goods have changed, for example from old to vintage or tattered to distressed. As respected fashion designer Stella McCartney once said, "The future of fashion is circular. It will be restorative and regenerative by design, and the clothes that we love will never end up as waste."